Good morning. This is Dr. Rutledge, and I've been invited to talk about my favorite topic, myself, and the mini gastric bypass. So just give me a second. We'll share the screen and we'll get started. Okay, so this is a history of the mini gastric bypass. This is a map of some of the places I've been teaching, and I can't see it on here, but I've also been to Australia, and so that's not listed on here. I begin with a humble thank you here in India, my brothers and sisters who, along with others around the world, led the world in the adoption of the mini gastric bypass. So I thank you all. There's a quote that I like. It says, "Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat the past." And the MGB is nothing more than routine general surgery. It's an old-timey colic gastroplasty with a Billroth II Gastro-j. So it's basic, regular, plain old general surgery. You might think that the MGB paradox is kind of over, no more fighting, because the ASMBS, one of the last countries on earth to endorse the MGB 25 years after it's done. The first surgery was done, and now you could say my work is done. But I think I'll make a case that it's not quite over yet. Basically, a little bit of background. This is from 1997 through 2011. Now, 2011 seems a long time ago. I did more than 6,000 patients and have 10-year data of my own and others, including now Dr. Kular and others around India, multiple centers, randomized controlled trials. And basically, the vertical gastric tube is really simple and basic. It's nothing more than an extension of the esophagus. It's a colic gastroplasty and a Billroth II gastro-j, which will remind you a little bit is basically standard general surgery and has a lot of advantageous components. The Billroth II has been performed now for much more than 100 years. Just in 2007, for example, there were 16,000 Billroth IIs. It's the operation of choice for me as a trauma surgeon, cancer of the stomach and other illnesses, and it's been used for a long time. I was criticized early on in the early 2000s after I first did it. They said, you may not remember this, all of you who are young, you may not remember, but there were people who yelled at me because I did not take out the gallbladder at the same time I did the bariatric surgery. You may not remember that the initial Roux-en-Y, which was the original surgery that was done commonly back in the 1997, 1999 time period, the Roux limb was supposed to be, have to be retrocolic and retrogastric. And we could talk about that. The MGB was said, oh my goodness, it's going to cause cancer. Because the old Mason loop was a disaster, then this Rutledge thing is a disaster as well. And the Billroth II causes cancer, which we still hear some confused surgeons talk about. And then the pouch and the Gastro-j, well, they were too big because the sleeve, the Roux-en-Y told us that we needed a very tiny pouch. There was something called a micro pouch. And the Gastro-j itself was supposed to be narrow and obstructive, and your patients wouldn't lose weight. And particularly funny to me now is I was criticized because I used email and I had a website. So I only have a few minutes. A brief history lesson on the Billroth II is a good operation. When done well, it makes people better. So many bariatric surgeons don't understand basic general surgery, and the Billroth II is a good operation. It improves or resolves diabetes and heart disease and decreases the risk of stroke. And so a lot of people are confused about this. This is not an MGB2 I'm talking about, just basic Billroth II surgery for ulcer disease. So this is a study from Taiwan, and we'll just look at it again. Just a Billroth II, no gastric narrowing, no gastric pouch, just the distal gastrectomy, relieves and decreases diabetes, heart disease, and the risk of stroke and more. Okay, this is some of the studies. Billroth II is a lower risk of stroke. Okay, this is the study. Lower risk of heart disease and death. This is the study. This is the study. We've already known this. MGB proves it as well, but we've known this for years, and somehow bariatric surgeons can't figure it out. This is coronary heart disease, 22% less by just a Billroth II. That's all. Don't worry about making a tight, narrow pouch. Just this alone. Conclusion of Billroth II, 50% reduced risk of diabetes. And there are other studies with extremely high resolution of diabetes with a full gastric pouch. Okay. Why did bariatric surgeons of the world get so confused? Well, because there was another very good surgeon, and he did something called the gastric bypass with a loop gastrojejanostomy, also called the Mason loop. And they said, oh, well, Rutledge, you're just repeating the past, and you're going to cause more complications and problems. And so that was that. And of course, all of those surgeons for 25 years were wrong. Still, many surgeons are wrong about this. And so we hope we'll give you a little history. Here's a comparison. Remember the lap band? Everybody told me the lap band was the new thing, and the MG. And here's the MGB. These are the citations on PubMed. And we'll look at some more changes in the world. Those who don't learn from the past, form the past, are condemned to repeat the past. Let's look at that. Where did this all begin? Well, I'm an old trauma surgeon. For 25 years or 20 years, I was a trauma surgeon, a full professor of surgery, a specialist in critical care medicine. I was one of the first surgeons to do laparoscopic Roux-en-Y in the world. And as I say, 20 years as a professor at the University of North Carolina. In September of 1997, a drug dealer was shot in the abdomen 6 times by a high-powered handgun, .357 Magnum. About 9 o'clock on a Thursday night in September, I rushed that patient to emergency surgery. The patient had a stomach, tail of pancreas, and multiple loops of small bowel injury. So again, stomach, pancreas, multiple loops of small bowel. So we treated him in a natural, routine general surgery way. Natural, routine, standard general surgery. We did a distal gastrectomy for the damage there, did a distal pancreatectomy and splenectomy because of that damage, and repaired the small bowel loops. And what we did then after antrectomy, distal pancreatectomy, and splenectomy is standard, plain old general surgery. Nothing revolutionary. We did a anticolic Billroth II. And we got the patient out, the patient lived and did well. That was done easily and without difficulty. And remember, and I had the same experience of this laparoscopic Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, retrogastric and retrocolic, and that was very difficult, very dangerous in those patients. So the next morning, I had a patient for bariatric surgery, and it was a nurse that I knew who worked in the operating room. And I told her, I think we should do this instead of the Roux-en-Y. And she said, oh, I've assisted on many antrectomies in Billroth II. That's a good, simple operation. I told her I thought it was a better choice. I thought the Roux-en-Y, is particularly the retrogastric, retrocolic, and the gallbladder removal, all that I thought was wrong. And so she agreed to go ahead with it. She was the first person on earth to have the so-called MGB. The MGB, I would say, and I have a longer discussion on this topic, is nothing special. It's just routine general surgery. It's a good, safe operation unless it's done wrong. And still today, I believe many surgeons are doing it wrong. Surgeons who know how to use the MGB, the Billroth II, and many bariatric surgeons, though, are uninformed and fear the Billroth II. Intelligent, knowledgeable general surgeons know how to use the Billroth II with good results. Confused, uninformed, or untrained often fear the Billroth II. Again, this, wrong. That's a Billroth II, wrong. This is a Billroth II, right. So basically, standard general surgery, anatomy and antrectomy and gastrojejanostomy equivalent, colic gastroplasty with non-obstructive restriction. And so there's a lot to talk about on that topic. And an anticolic Billroth II gastrojejanostomy, allowing it to be tailored to the patient's needs. That's a very important topic. We won't get into it probably today unless there are questions, but a lot of people misunderstand that as well. The advantages, it's simple. Mean operating time, in my experience, is around 20 minutes. It's elegant. We don't go near the EG junction. The gastrojejunectomy shows minimal tension. It's durable now for over 20, now 25 years. It's powerful. It's uniquely tailored to the patient. It's reversible and revisable easily, in contrast to the Roux-en-Y in the sleeve. So, how about the trends over the past 5 years? This is from Israel, just to let you know what's happening with the MGB. And the MGB, for example, in Israel, a 5-year analysis over 5 years went from less than 1% to almost half. And the sleeve is declining from 80% down to 37%. And of course, the Roux-en-Y, rarely done. And the SATI and the SASI, even more rare. This is from 2020, and I understand it continues. Why is the popular sleeve now in rapid decline in Israel? Because it's hard to hide failure in a small country. And if 1/3 of patients fail, what can you expect? Also, India has spoken. There are a lot of articles to refer to, but this is by Dr. Bog. And here we see weight regain. Weight regain studied in MGB, Roux-en-Y, and sleeve. Sleeve has weight regain, as defined in the paper back in 2019, of 1 out of every 3 patients, as opposed to MGB, 1 out of 10. Okay, so 10 times higher, and of course Roux-en-Y, 5 times higher. Okay, gigantic difference in this critical outcome factor. So the MGB paradox, though, is we still hear bile reflux is a problem, excessive weight loss is a problem, and we won't go into that too much more detail, except that the issue here is the difference between excellent and poor results, and we call that the MGB paradox. And the short answer is that we believe that that's related to the competency and skill of the surgeon and the management in the postoperative period. So I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to be here today. And it was my pleasure to spend time with you. And thank you very, very much for this opportunity.